Okay.
Okay, all right, let's call to order. It is 8:32 a.m. I'm calling to order the Las Virgenes-Malibu Council of Government Governing Board meeting. Could we have a roll call, please?
Yes, let's see. Stuart Siegel, I think you have an announcement,
me, yes.
right?
I do. Let me just, so I am going, although you all know Nico as my alternate for the last close to a year, and I am going to be my term is going to be up, and I'm not running again. So I feel it would be the best thing to do to let Nico assume the position of the member for the COG representing Hidden Hills, and I'll stay on as her backup for a while. And so we met at our last council meeting. We had a consensus that this was a good idea. So going from this moment forward, starting with the approval of the agenda, I would like Aniko, who you already know, to take over.
Okay. Chris
Thank you,
Anstead.
Stuart.
Yes, here.
Kelly Honig.
Yes, here.
Alicia Weintraub.
Here.
President Fair.
Yes, here.
We do have a quorum.
Okay, and welcome, Aniko, and thank you, Stuart.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. Terry, do you want to take the roll on that?
Yes.
Motion to approve the agenda?
Stuart Siegel. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Aniko Gold.
Yes.
Chris Anstead.
Aye.
Kelly Honig.
Aye.
Alicia Weintraub.
Aye.
President Fair.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do we have public comments on items not on the agenda?
What I've received has all been related to the agenda. I'm not sure if there's anyone that's on the meeting that wants to speak on an item that's not on the agenda.
I see that we have Chief Robert Luna.
Yes, if whenever I get your permission, I do want to speak of an item off your agenda, please.
I think now is that time, so thank you.
Thank you all very much and good morning, and thank you for your service to our community. My name's Robert Luna, and I'm running to be your next LA County Sheriff. I've served the city of Long Beach for the last 36 years. I worked through every assignment and went through every rank, and I was actually the chief of police the last 7 years serving the city of Long Beach. I grew up in a Latino working class neighborhood in East Los Angeles. Only spoke Spanish, learned English in school. Parents are immigrants, but I saw a lot of social inequity growing up, and instead of getting angry about it, I thought I'd do something about it. So it inspired me to seek a career in law enforcement, and to shape my views on relationship-based policing, which you'll hear a lot of in a lot of my speaking points. Why am I running? I'm called to do this work. I care and love public service, and I want to make a difference. I want to restore public trust and credibility, which is much needed in the LA County Sheriff's Department. I want to turn it into a 21st century Sheriff's Department. And I just absolutely know that we and I can do better. If elected, my priorities is to reduce crime, making our streets safer, to impact homelessness. I'm going to do that by restoring public trust and credibility, by reforming and reimagining and modernizing the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department into a 21st century department. And I also want to work on improving deputy and employee wellness, which academic research shows will reduce misconduct. Why am I the best choice for your next sheriff? Several reasons. Number one, I'm the only candidate that comes from outside the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. That means I've never worked there and I don't work there now. And it needs reform, and an outsider is best to do that. I'm the only candidate who has experience leading a large, diverse, complex, and progressive municipal police department. Long Beach is the second largest city in LA County, as a chief of police, that is. I'm also the only candidate that has a national and regional law enforcement leadership profile. I was a Western Region rep on the executive board for the Major City Chiefs Association, where I was elected and re-elected to that post, working on national policing issues, which those relationships is what I want to bring to the Sheriff's Department to turn it around. I also was elected and re-elected as the board chair to the Joint Regional Intelligence Center, which covers not only LA County, but 6 other counties around us. And that's with the FBI, Homeland Security, LA County Sheriffs, LAPD, LA County Health. So as you see, what I'm kind of summarizing here is I have a lot of respect in law enforcement in our area. I have a track record for proven leadership with integrity, successful bridge building, which we really need in this county, with years of executive experience and the right temperament, making me a complete contrast to the current sheriff. With that, that's the end of my public comment. Thank you for listening to me, and I wish you all the best of luck in your meeting, and I'll be listening in.
Thank you very much, Chief Luna.
Thank you, Chief Luna.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on through the agenda, the consent calendar. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, thank you. I will second. Terry?
Yes. Aniko Gold, Hidden Hills.
Aye.
Chris Anstead, Agoura Hills.
Aye.
Kelly Honig, Westlake Village.
Aye.
Alicia Weintraub, Calabasas.
Aye.
President Fair, Malibu.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to item 5, information items. Executive Director's report, Terry?
That would be me. Give me 1 second. I'd first like to report, as I forward all of you, the COG did submit, or I did submit the COG's grant application to Cal OES to update the COG's hazard mitigation plan. So hopefully we'll be hearing from that soon, and I will be updating you as that progresses. The COG held a great homeless working group meeting. We had good attendance by all of the cities and all of the COG service providers, including LASA. And it was a very good meeting. The COG will be following up with a meeting with just the COG representatives and an associate director from LASA, along with the MET team, to discuss specifics of what was talked about yesterday. So that was it was just a really good meeting. I've been following up with all of the COG cities on our highway working group follow-up with regard to the 9th year of the Measure M funding, along with the additional funding from the county. And that's going well, and I will continue to keep you updated on that. This is just a minor item. Metro's been working on this sub-regional equity program. It's basically additional funding to the COGs. Unfortunately, it's not a lot of money from a county-wide standpoint that would generate significant resources for the COG. As you can see in my report, it's estimated that the COG would get maybe 150,000 a year over 5 years. So when you spread that out amongst the COG cities, it doesn't really amount to a whole lot, but I just wanted to keep you updated on that. Let's see, I also want to thank you all for getting your Form 700s filed on time. And last but certainly not least, I appreciate the relationship that I have with Gabriel and the good work that he does as the COG's homeless outreach coordinator. And we continue to talk regularly to get his updates. And I was out of town last weekend when Gabriel sent me his report on Friday. And so I will send that out to all of you today. And that concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I just wanted to just make I don't have a question. This is actually for Gabriel, and it's late, Gabriel. I just wanted to convey our sympathy, and I'll speak for all of our governing board members on the passing of your mother. I'm very sorry about that, and we're delayed in wishing that to you. I there you are. I see you. I see you. So very sorry, Gabriel. It's a very difficult time in your life.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I really do.
Thank you. Thanks, Terry. And Gabriel, yes, sending deepest condolences from all of us. Thank you, Kelly.
Thanks, Kelly.
Okay, thanks, Terry, for your report. Moving on to item 5B, homelessness update. Corinne Ho?
Corinne contacted me late Friday. She had to go out of town for her father's passing.
I'm so sorry.
And so I'm not sure if there's another LASA person that's going to stand
I
in for.
I see a
there's
hand
Pablo.
raised.
Okay,
Yes.
Pablo.
Thank you, Pablo.
Hi, yes, good morning, COG. Yes, I'm covering for Corinne today. Unfortunately, she's out. So I just have a few updates from LASA. I'm sure everyone's already aware that Dr. Melissa Chinchilla was confirmed recently by the LA City Council to serve as a LASA commissioner, replacing Commissioner, I believe it was Mitchell Kamen. Also just recently, Mayor Sasha Renee Perez from the city of Alhambra was appointed by Supervisor Solis to serve as a LASA commissioner. I believe Sasha replaced Commissioner Sarah Dassault. So at this time, LASA, they're still in the process of filling a final vacancy on the commission. So with the resignation of Commissioner, I believe it was Kelly Bernard, this seat will be filled by the mayor soon. So, but also to note that this seat specifically is reserved for someone representing the business community. So let's see, more updates here. On the federal side, we're actually just months away from the 988 hotline being implemented. I'm not sure if everyone's aware of this, but I believe it's going to be effective July 16th of this year. So this will be essentially the universal telephone number for responding to anyone experiencing like a mental health crisis, thoughts of suicide, a substance use crisis, or any other kind of emotional suffering. Make it easier for Americans facing this type of crisis to get immediate help when needed. So just like when we dial 911 to get help, this will also save lives. And I believe I updated everyone yesterday in the homeless working group meeting that the final report and findings for the Blue Ribbon Commission, that's rescheduled to May 3rd. It's not going to be occurring today. So we are anticipating a motion from the board to dig into these recommendations further and do the necessary analysis to determine how to implement these recommendations in a way that it will complement or enhance, if you will, the work of the homeless response. But I don't have a lot of updates. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Pablo. Do we have any questions? Okay, moving on to item 5C, city reports on COVID. Agoura Hills?
Good morning, everybody, and thank you. In regards to our COVID activities, our City Council and Planning Commission are still holding hybrid meetings. We have opened up to the public in person for these meetings as well. Had a little bit of attendance, so we're starting to see people come back. The city held its first in-person event, which we had a great showing. We probably almost close to doubled our numbers, pre-pandemic numbers for attendance. So we're starting to see people back. And then the final thing I'll just cover this morning, this Friday, there is a wildlife crossing ribbon cutting or grand opening of the start of the project, and it is over off of Liberty Canyon. And so there will be believe the governor is supposed to attend, so there will be freeway off-ramp and on-ramp closures and to work with his detail. And Caltrans will be, who is the lead on this project, is kind of taking that. But I did want to give a big thank you to Acting Captain Fender and helping us work on a plan pretty quickly and getting something in place to make sure that we had all the safety measures for our local street as well. So with that, I will conclude unless Councilmember Weber and Anstead had anything to add.
I have nothing to add. Thank you, Nate.
Okay, thank you, Nate. Calabasas?
Thank you, President Ferrer, and good morning, everyone. Just a couple things to report. So the city of Calabasas will be discussing in-person meetings at our next council meeting on April 27th. We had a preliminary discussion about a month ago. The council decided to come back with a request to staff to provide more information. And so we will be doing that on the April 27th meeting. Also, just in regards to COVID, we are still checking vaccination status at City Hall, the Civic Center, other facilities, either vaccination status or negative test. And we'll be continuing that at least until we see some considerable change in the numbers or the change in policy on that. Other than that, I don't have anything else to report. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kenton. Next, Hidden Hills.
Good morning. Like Calabasas, we will be discussing a potential, not even just the status of our council chambers at our meeting on April 25th. We are prepared to do a hybrid system, much like all of you. So that is all we have. I don't know if Aniko or Stuart has anything to add as it related to COVID and the city, anything like that.
No, thank you, Carrie.
Okay, thank you, Carrie. Malibu?
Thank you and good morning. In terms of COVID, Malibu City Hall has been back open. We are ramping up with our senior center and our recreation facilities. We are continuing to strongly recommend that persons inside City Hall and city facilities wear masks. We had been on track, direction from council to return to in-person at our May 9th meeting. However, we did have a council member ask to reconsider that. So we're bringing that back to council at our meeting on Monday, April 25th, to see if the city council would like to reconsider to give some further direction to staff. So barring that, we would return to in-person on May 9th. Also just wanted to note for the group that Malibu right now is making a pretty strong push to both the state and federal legislators to try to secure funding for the next phase of our water treatment facility for the Civic Center area. We did get some positive response from Senator Stern's office, and we have a follow-up meeting with Assemblymember Irwin's office later this week. So again, we're hoping to get some money to help with that project, which of course is vital to the health of Malibu Creek and keeping the pollution out of Santa Monica Bay and the ocean. I think that's it for my report. Unless Councilmember Fair has anything she'd like to add.
No, thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Okay, Westlake Village.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Good to see you all. With respect to COVID, everything's going, pretty well. We've been back in person as a council for a couple of months now, and it's going very well. The council decided that they wanted to all be back in person, but still allow the public to have the option of being in person or teleconference in, and so that's been working well. Our council committee meetings, we still continue to take advantage of the virtual sort of option via Zoom, so we're doing that. City Hall and all other programs and services are up and running, almost back to pre-COVID actually, so which is great. So generally things are going well in Westlake Village. Councilman Honig, Pearl, anything to add?
I just want to say, yeah, we are back in person and it's really good. I love it. And it's going really well. We've had no problems. We get to actually see each other and the staff. And the only other thing I wanted to add is I'm very excited about the grand opening of the wildlife crossing on Friday and being able to go in person. So it's cool, right?
I don't have anything to add. Thank you.
Okay, Karen had to step away for a second. I will just move to item 6 for public safety and legislative agency partners, Sheriff's Department, Acting Captain Fender.
I'm here. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Good
All
morning.
right. Well, good morning, and thank you for letting me be part of the COG again. I have a jam-packed little list here, but I tend to talk fast, so I'll go through it very quickly. Overall crime in the COG is down 12%. I'm very happy to report. I checked the numbers this morning. So as I always mention on the COG, the theft is the type of crime that drives the numbers here in the COG. So please, when you're making your public safety announcements out to your cities, please let these residents know to lock their doors and lock their cars. If I could just get, the majority of our citizens to lock their cars and lock their doors, that would probably take away half the crime, at least half the crime. So I appreciate the cities that put that message out on their social media. So if you could continue to put that out in conjunction with our social media or tag us, I would really appreciate it. It's going to help us all out in the long run. With respect to COVID and the sheriff's station, we only have one person out on long-term COVID, but she's actually doing much better. She's still at home. She's near her retirement date, so I don't know if she's going to come back, but she is doing much better on the COVID front. In the last couple of weeks, I really tried to juggle the city council meetings for the cities of the COG, trying to get to every one of them. Sometimes I've done 2 or 3 of them at one time, one on the computer, one on my phone, one on my county phone. So I'm just trying to get out there. But if you need me at a meeting, please let me know. If I can only pop on for a couple minutes, I apologize. I'm trying to give each of the cities equal time, or if one of the cities has a particular issue that they really need me for, I will let the other cities know. That way, they understand that I'm there for those issues, so we can answer any of the questions from the public. I'm just going to go down my list real quick. Camp Kilpatrick. So I know that's going to come up later, but I did take a tour of Camp Kilpatrick with LA County Fire last Wednesday. It was more for the purposes of some fire drills they're going to be doing, but it's the first time that I've actually been on the facility. It was actually an impressive facility. I think they spent somewhere in the upwards of $50 million to redo that entire facility. What did surprise me is there were only 8 inmates there. I know, like I said, it's going to come up later, so I don't want to get too far into it. But they only had 8 inmates. I know they're talking about increasing that, but they had 8 inmates, their classification, not mine, and 135 staff members, which I thought the ratio, that proportion was a little odd, but that's what they had, 135 staff members for 8 inmates. So just to give you some context on how many people are out there during any given time before they had that proposed move. We had our first organized retail theft roundtable that same day on Wednesday. I had mentioned at the last COG meeting that I wanted to bring that from another station. It was something I had seen done somewhere else. So we had this organized retail theft roundtable here at the station. We had 23 participating agencies. That's Ventura County Sheriffs, LAPD, San Diego, the district attorney's office, a city attorney. There was a lot of people. I'd never seen the briefing room downstairs so jam-packed, which shows me that it's definitely a hot issue in Southern California, not just in the COG cities, but in Southern California with these follow home robberies, they're following people home from businesses or affluent places, and then the organized retail theft where they're going into our stores and just taking things and running out. So that was attended by, I said, 23 agencies and 15 retail outlets, which was very impressive that we had that kind of cooperation between the retail establishments and the agencies to come out there and discuss crime trends, ways to prevent theft, filing issues with the district attorney's office. It was a great meeting. Had I been able to share the screen, I would have showed you some pictures, but it was great. We had a coffee with the deputy in Calabasas on Thursday, the 14th. The mayor and some of the city council members from Calabasas were out there. It was great turnout. I was really nice to meet a good section of our Jewish community out there. Spoke to them about possibly starting a clergy council here in the cities of the COG. It was something that I've been part of at other stations that I've worked, and we don't have one here at Lost Hill Sheriff Station. And to start a clergy council of prominent clergy persons from each of our denominations and religions. It's just another information portal that allows me to get information out to the public and allows those communities to then funnel information into the sheriff's department. So we're going to be speaking with a couple of our department chaplains about reaching out to some of the denominations and religions. Someone's not muted. But I'll have more on that later, but it's something, an idea that I brought from someone else that I wanted to introduce you. I met with Calabasas on the final installation of their flock cameras. And I know some of the other cities have mentioned those, and we've been in talks with those flock cameras. So looks like Calabasas is getting ready to come online here. In fact, we have a training today at about 10:30, 11 o'clock. I have a training on a train the trainer on how to use the system. So in our city council meetings or and off discussions with the members of the council, if you have questions about those type of cameras, please let me know. We're becoming like the resident experts for this area on those. Tonight, we have a civilian advisory committee meeting at 6 o'clock. So if you don't know what the civilian advisory committee is, it was a group that I had suggested to Captain Becerra about 2 years ago that he should institute here. We're the only city or the only station in North Patrol Division that didn't have a CAC. So it's a group of members from each of our communities that come together at the sheriff's station and relay information that is going on from their communities to the sheriff's department. And again, we relay information back to them. They bring up prominent issues in the communities, and then we have discussions and try to figure out how we're going to make things better for each of the communities and then the cities in general. Thursday, we have a catalytic converter etching event at the Virgenes-Malibu and Lube in Agoura Hills. Unfortunately, all the spots are taken and they fill up fast, but what that shows me is that people are getting the message. We've had really good success. Knock on wood, we don't have a lot of catalytic converter thefts here as compared to the other cities. We do have some, but not as many as the COG. And I think we can attribute some of that to these etching events that we keep having. Every time we put one out, they fill up within an hour or two. So if people in your cities are asking about the etching events, please let them know to monitor the sheriff's web pages, either on Facebook or Instagram, because we're constantly putting those out. We try to do it once a month, but again, they fill up fast. And then on Friday, as Mr. Hamburger already mentioned, Friday, we're going to be assisting Caltrans and the Highway Patrol with the Wallace-Annenberg the Wildlife Crossing opening. So we already have an event action plan completed. We'll be assisting with some traffic control. I think they estimated between 500 and 800 people at that event. I'll be out there in attendance. And it looks to be a very good event. Obviously, it's very important to the communities of not just Agoura Hills, but the COG. So I think it's going to be a really good event. It's going to lead a lot of people. And as Nate mentioned, there's going to be a lot of traffic issues around Liberty Canyon and the 101 off ramps right there. So if you're not coming to the event, try to avoid that area for at least a couple hours. I think it starts at 10. It's only supposed to run an hour. But between the people coming and the people going, I anticipate maybe 3-4 hours and a lot of traffic. There's not a lot of parking. So if you want to come, I would suggest you come early. I'll be there early so to help direct traffic and meet people. So if you have any questions for me, that is my report in a nutshell.
Thank you very much, Acting Captain Fender. And now, as we agreed at 9 o'clock, we will cut ahead to item 7A, the Campus Kilpatrick item. And for the rest of you under item 6, we will come back to you after this. Thank you for your patience. Okay, Terry, do you have any introductions?
Well, I think at this point, it would probably be best to turn it over to Tessa. And Tessa, do you want to facilitate your presentation, or should I call on somebody else?
You know what, let's have Barbara Osborne, who I think is on, take the lead. I think she knows who's up. I don't know if Veronica.
Yeah, actually, I can take the
Perfect.
lead. I'm here
Okay.
and I can take the lead, Tessa. And can everybody see and hear me?
Yes.
Yes, thank
See
you.
and or hear me. Okay, so I'm here today. Good morning, everybody, with a panel of folks to speak to you about the LA County Board of Supervisors proposed plan to use the site at Campus Kilpatrick for a new population that we have in our county. I'm here today with a couple of folks who will present with me. If you all could introduce yourself really briefly. Let's start with Adam.
Good morning, everybody. I'm happy to be here with you. I'm Adam Bettino, Chief Deputy Probation Officer for LA County Probation.
And if we can next go to Kent. Are you with us, Kent?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes. If you could just quickly introduce yourself, Ken.
Oh, hello, everybody. My name is Kent Mendoza. I'm Manager of Advocacy and Community Organizing at the Anti-Recidivism Coalition here in Los Angeles County.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kent. And Wendy Julian, if you could go next.
Good morning, Wendy Julian. I'm the Executive Director of the Los Angeles County Probation Oversight Commission.
And so we're gonna present to you, and really, I think we're primarily here to field your questions today, because I think, you know, everybody sort of has a sense of what's going on. But we will take just, 10-15 minutes to present, and then, like I said, field your questions. So I will kick us off. My name is Veronica Pulowski, and I am Supervisor Kuehl's Senior Justice Deputy. So I advise the supervisor on all policy issues related to justice, including the issue that we're here to discuss today. So, I have just a few minutes, again, just for a brief overview. So I thought that today I would cover three sort of main questions about the project, the intended project over at Campus Kilpatrick. I'm going to talk about the where, how we arrived at the decision. I'm going to talk about the what. It's something that hasn't been talked about a whole lot in conversations, and I thought it's really important to highlight the what. And I'm going to talk about the who. Very briefly, because we're, splitting the time here, all three of us. So very quickly on the where. There was a lot of work that went into selecting the locations for the new SYTF. We're calling the SYTF population, Secure Youth Trap Facility. The state announced its plans to close its DJJ facilities in May of 2020. So just about 2 years ago now. And in that time, there has been, like I said, a lot of work that's gone into determining which sites are the best proposed sites. So first I'll say that when the DJJ when we first heard this was coming down, the Board of Supervisors actually acted before any other county, even before the state, and passed a motion directing an existing group of experts and stakeholders to take a look at all of our facilities and to make some recommendations to the board. And that was called the Youth Justice Work Group. They held public meetings, they did site visits, they consulted with other facilities across the country, or other jurisdictions, across the country. And so the Youth Justice Work Group made a set of recommendations that did include at the time Campus Kilpatrick as one of the proposed sites. What happened after that is that the state then said, we want you to do it a different way. Every county has a juvenile justice coordinating council. We want you to put together a subcommittee of your juvenile justice coordinating council. And we want that subcommittee to make recommendations and plans for this new population. And that is written into the state law, that will be the process. That the Juvenile Justice Coordinating Council will be the one to make plans for this new population. So of course, we followed that law. The county quickly assembled a subcommittee of our Juvenile Justice Coordinating Council. It's now called the JJRBG, which stands for a whole lot of things, but that's what it's called. The JJRBG held multiple public meetings. The JJRBG went to every site location. The JJRBG heard from and consulted with security experts, architectural experts, youth development experts, and legal experts. And I'm sure there are other experts that the JJRBG consulted from that I'm missing. And it was based off of all this work that the JJRBG sort of ended up saying, these are the sites that we think are feasible. These are the sites that are not feasible for one reason or another. And then there was a lot of discussion about, the sites that ended up on the list of feasible. And ultimately, what we realized is that it can't just be one site. The numbers that we're foreseeing, the desire to keep the population at each location very small, it just wasn't feasible to think that we're going to have one location for all of these young people. So we took the list that the JJRBG came up with, and we basically said, okay, let's have multiple parts of the county, take a sort of like a share, if you will, of the expected population. And so that's when we came up with, what is right now the plan that we're exploring further, which is to have Campus Kilpatrick be one site, Camp Scott in Santa Clarita be another site, and then obviously Dorothy Kirby Center in Commerce be the site for young ladies. So that's sort of the where, how we arrived at the where. what I really want to talk about today, in addition to the where, is the what, because I think this is a part of the conversation that has really been lost.
In Malibu.
I'm sorry.
Please mute, except for Veronica, our speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that the what is part of the conversation that's really been lost, which is, that anytime we are looking at providing a place to house young people, we also have to really carefully consider what services, what are we going to offer for young people at these sites? Because the where is certainly part of it, but what you do and what you offer is probably the most critical piece of it, right? And that's another reason why Campus Kilpatrick really floated to the surface as an ideal location. I'm sure you're all familiar with, the work that has been done to transform Campus Kilpatrick into a location that really is the model. I mean, it's literally called the LA model in terms of the service delivery that we give for the young people. But just to be sure, and just to make sure that everybody was on the same page, the supervisor did author a motion that the board passed that really focuses on, we have to absolutely make sure that the right services, treatment, and supports are in place for young people at Campus Kilpatrick. So this is going to include mental health, which is already there. The partnership that we have with mental health at Campus Kilpatrick, really, again, the model for most of our facilities in LA County. The education piece, we're going to make sure that we have people on site who we call them credible messengers. And the idea here is individuals who have been where these young people are, who have, similar backgrounds and experiences, who really, it's more than mentorship. It's saying, I have been where you are and look what I did with my life. You can do the same thing too. And I'm here to support you. And I'm here to make sure that that happens, which we have learned over time is probably the most essential piece to young people sort of, turning their lives around. We also have a provider who we have started working with who takes that one step further and actually brings young people together with survivors, people who have been through trauma caused by violence inflicted upon their families. And this provider really puts people in the same space so that young people can see, like, I'm going to say it this way. At the end of the day, what this is about, it's about accountability that comes from within the young person, instead of a model where we think that we're going to hold young people accountable by imposing accountability upon them. It's accountability that comes from within. And so these are the types of providers that we have started working with and that we plan to make sure accompany the young people to Campus Kilpatrick. And then the final piece I'm going to cover today, again, very quickly, and I know I'm going super fast, but I want to leave time for questions, is that I'm going to talk about the who these young people are. I've been spending quite a bit of time in our different facilities that we have in the 3rd District, Barry J. Nydorf and Campus Kilpatrick. And I just kind of want to say that there's been a lot that has been said about the types of offenses that we're talking about in the SYTF population, but I want to absolutely crush that myth and share with you all that these 707B offenses, they're everywhere in our halls and camps today. As we sit here today, our camps have young people who have committed 707B offenses. Campus Kilpatrick currently today has young people who have committed 707B offenses. And so I don't want anybody to sort of focus on that piece of it. I think that the reality is that they've been in our camps. And the reason why, I do want to share this, that they've been in our camps because there has been, the juvenile justice system has done, I think, a really good job of not putting into these facilities people who have like what we call low level, offenses. We're dealing with those in a very different way these days. And so what ends up happening is that the young people who are in our halls and camps, they are the ones who have the most complex needs, the most complex backgrounds. But that's across the board, right? Like that's in every camp, in every hall. And I think that probation knows who these kids are and has done already an incredible job together with community and with the board and with everybody, DMH, LACO, of working with our young people. And so they've been there already. And I do want to make that point.
Veronica?
Yes.
Veronica, could I jump in real quick?
Yes.
Could you elaborate on what a 707B offense is?
Yes, absolutely. So 707B refers to a section of the Welfare and Institutions Code that tends to be sort of like the more serious offenses. So what is included in 707B, and I mean, Adam will really be the expert on this, but it is basically the most serious offenses are categorized within 707B. And the reason why we talk about 707B a lot in this context is because typically that used to be sort of the line, right? Like if you committed a 707B, that is what made you eligible to go to DJJ. Like that was just sort of like the bright line. And so it does include, you know, the most serious offenses. It includes the sex offenses. It includes, you know, murder. It includes assaults. It does include the most serious offenses. But I think that, again, what we've seen more, I would say probably in the last 5 to 7 years, is that 707B, who would end up going to DJJ versus who would end up staying here locally. I'm telling you, it was like the decision of a prosecutor. The decision, if you're in one judge's courtroom, the same offense could send you to DJJ, same offense could land you, different judge, same offense lands you here in LA County. So I think that's why we ended up seeing that where it used to be said, oh, if you did a 707B, you're going to DJJ. It's just not the case anymore, and it hasn't been for some time. I hope that helps, Terry. But Adam can also cover this. So the who, so yeah, so we've had 707Bs here at the local level for quite some time. And then the last piece I want to emphasize about the who is that I think it's really important to understand that Campus Kilpatrick, Camp Scott, it will not be the first stop for these young people. So the first stop is always going to be Barry J. Nydorf. And the reason why is because Barry J. Nydorf is where young people are held before their cases are resolved in court, right? So when they're going to trial, before adjudication, they're held at Barry J. What that means is that can be anywhere from 2 months to over a year that you're held pre-trial, right? Predisposition. So Campus Kilpatrick is never going to be the first stop. What it's going to be is where an intentional decision is made that a young person is ready for the type of programming and the type of facility that is offered at Campus Kilpatrick. And that means a lot. So every young person is required under the new law to have what's called an individualized rehabilitation plan, where we actually are forced to bring together a team of professionals called an MDT, who looks at each individual case and makes recommendations to the court about what rehabilitation services each individual young person needs to have. Those who are selected for Campus Kilpatrick, they'll be the ones who are ready for that program. So I want to give you an example. I'm not going to use any specifics, but like I said, I've been visiting a lot with the young people in our halls and camps. And, you know, we have individuals at Barry J right now who have been there for quite some time. They have completed their AA degrees in custody. They are desperate for post-secondary education at this point. That is, you know, an example of the type of young man who could benefit from a program like Campus Kilpatrick. We have a young man at Barry J who has come up with a proposal for a dog training program, meaning he wants the ability for young people to be able to learn how to train, do dog training. The reason for that is because he says, if I do not know how to do something else when I leave this facility, I don't know what I'll do. Like, I need to be able to learn how to do something other than what I did before I got here. And so he came up, he wrote it up, and I actually have it to share with the supervisor because it's actually a really impressive business plan is what it is. So, you know, I just want to emphasize, this is going to be a selection process, and it's going to be a selection of the young people who we believe, or the professionals believe, are ready for a setting like Campus Kilpatrick. I'm going to leave it there, and then I'm going to turn it over to Adam, and then Adam will turn it over to Kent. Kent will turn it over to Wendy, and then we will take your questions.
Thank you,
Veronica.
Veronica.
I'm sorry. Good morning, everybody. And thank you, Veronica. You covered a lot of information very succinctly, and the explanation of 707B was really great. And you nailed it. So if there are questions about that, we can certainly dig into that later. And it's a good segue. I want to talk a little bit about safety and security. When Veronica mentions the MDT process, so we are sort of thinking through the movement of young people in phases. So we think of Barry J. Nydorf sort of as a phase 0 because We are waiting for all of the court proceedings to sort of play themselves out. There's an initial, in statute, there's an initial 30-day window where a rehabilitation plan is developed. From there, we do want to ensure that young people are participating in programming, they're going to school if that's kind of where they are in their process, and really prepared to go and live in a new setting. So we're actually, that assessment process is underway now. We have 31 young people who've been ordered, and we're waiting to see, we think approximately 10 of those young people may be ready to go in the next couple of weeks. And so we're working quickly to get everything ready for that. So I want to talk about security enhancements to Campus Kilpatrick specifically. We've had some walkthroughs from LA County Sheriff and others. We've looked at the facility itself. It is not as carceral as our other old camps, our other juvenile halls. You will not see barbed wire when you drive through there. That's intentional. We do not plan to add any of that. It is a beautiful campus. We did spend tens of millions of dollars several years ago to renovate the site. So what we've done instead is add some anti-climbing mesh to the fences. We've added some roller bars to the top that are really actually difficult to see unless you look really closely. That's intentional. We do not want this to be a carceral setting, but we want it to be secure and as safe as possible. So that work is mostly done. The other thing that we're looking into are some of the exterior security measures that will take a little bit more time. Adding a security booth, for example, right now you can sort of drive on campus past the old Camp Miller that was unfortunately burned in Woolsey right onto the campus. So we're taking a look at some additional enhancements there. We're also looking at the dorms themselves. So the difference between Campus Kilpatrick and Barry J. Nidoff, for example, is these are open cottages. So you have multiple beds on each side of a cottage as opposed to individual rooms that lock. That also is part of the consideration when we're talking through the MDT process. We want young people to be prepared to go and live in an open dorm setting. The cottages give us a lot of advantages, to be perfectly honest. We intentionally designed it that way based on some other things that we saw, some other practices that we saw throughout the country to provide services and support in small groups. That also helps us with any kind of classification that we need to do with our population. It really allows us an opportunity to move young people around as safely as possible and have them live kind of in their own little ecosystem, right? In a place that they feel safe and secure. One of the other things I want to discuss is, and Veronica touched on this, when we talk about safety and security, you can't really talk about those things without programming and staffing. And so she mentioned all of the different supports coming from mental health who are already there. Mental health staff at Kilpatrick work really closely with probation staff. They work really closely with community-based organizations now. So we obviously expect that to continue. And then when we talk about staffing, this will be an opportunity for probation to recruit specific staff to work with this population. Currently, in a typical assignment at probation, given some of our labor practices and contracts, staff can bid to a location and are normally selected based on seniority. This will be an opportunity for probation and folks from our subcommittee that Veronica mentioned, so folks from the community, to weigh in and select specific staff to work with this population. We very much want to choose staff who want to work with this population. So we're pursuing that. And then as a complement to the mental health and the probation staff and other community-based organizations, we're pretty far in the planning around bringing in folks with lived experience, credible messengers to work alongside our staff, mental health staff. So you would have effectively community folks working right alongside with county folks. Both the staffing and the programming aspects really do enhance security. They enhance safety. The other part that we're working really quickly on is developing post-secondary education, because we do have at least one young person who's likely to move to Kilpatrick who's finished his AA, and really enhancing some of our vocational partnerships there. one of the things that we have to solve for this population is we want to ensure that there's a living wage job or an educational opportunity at the end of their time with us. The big win here, the big reform here is that these young people don't have to spend time in state prison, right? We get to provide services and supports here in LA County, close to home, close to their family, their network. But at the end of that, we want to make sure that we're providing stable housing, that we're providing education opportunities, that we're providing living wage jobs. And so those are some of the things that we're continuing to partner with community folks, public and private, to really find pathways for young people who come into this program. Veronica also sort of mentioned this, where the phases are interesting. One of the things that the subcommittee is continuing to work on, one of the things that we need to work on rather quickly is in statute, there's this discussion of step down options. So a young person will come into Barry J, await sort of court disposition and some other things, move out to Campus Kilpatrick or Camp Scott. And then from there, there's an option for them to step down to a less secure option or an open community option. So those are some things that we're continuing to work through. In other words, our young people will have time to effectively shave time off from their sentence and go and serve their time in another location. So those again are opportunities for young people to be out in the community, going to school, working, doing some other things that are really exciting. So please, again, what's really important here is this is brand new for the state of California. All counties in the state are grappling with this population, and all of a sudden having to provide housing and services and supports for this population. We've never done this before. And so there's been some painstaking conversations along the way about location and about services and about supports. And we want to make sure that we're being as careful as possible because this is new. And so we've had really good collaborative discussions with the board offices, with our county partners, with community-based folks. So it's been a really helpful process, but it is a new challenge for LA County. So I'll leave it there. And I think I'm passing it on to Mr. Mendoza.
Yes,
Nice to see you,
that's
Kent.
Thanks, Adam.
Yes, thank you, Adam. And thanks everybody for having me here today. Once again, I'm with the Anti-Recidivism Coalition. And I would just say that I was once incarcerated in all LA County juvenile halls, camps, and facilities. So I bring that experience. I know what it is to be incarcerated in Challenger Memorial Youth Center, which is Lancaster, for 18 months, as well as being in the compound where the young people who we're talking about here today are currently located in, and as well as going to state prisons and all that. So I ended up spending 5 years of my life incarcerated from the age of 15 to 20 for being a young kid that didn't have opportunity that a lot of other people do. I was once a kid that that had a normal life, that really wanted to be like any other kid, wanted to be an artist and paint. But unfortunately, because in my community, there was no real potential and pathways for that, no real guidance, no father figures. That was not a pathway that I could have really clinched onto. I remember at one time I wanted to be a Marine because I fell in love so much with this country that I wanted to even join the Army. But again, I didn't have nobody that could guide me towards that pathway. And at one time I wanted to be a professional skater as well. But again, I didn't have no real guidance in my life as a young teenager living in a community where, like Malibu and other communities, not really resourced as well and not really funded as well. Schools don't look the same. Streets are tagged up. These are the realities that I grew up into, and no real guidance. And so all those things that I wanted to do as a kid from the age of 6 all the way to 15, I wanted to do those things, but I didn't have no proper guidance, proper system, proper models in place that could really trigger me to my full potential. And the reason I say that is because these are the young people that we're talking about here today. I was one of those kids too that at one point they used to call me a criminal, that I couldn't change, that I was never gonna be someone in my life because of my background or because of my 707B offense, right? Which is the ones that we're talking about here, to the serious offense. And I think that sometimes we get caught up so much on that we forget about the young people that we're talking about. these are kids, they are still growing, their brain is still developing, and if we can provide the proper solutions and models in place, they can really become the best versions of themselves. And I think that for me, when I was incarcerated, what really helped me was credible messengers. So I think that having something like that in place would be great. And I just wanted to say, I went all the way to, I drove all the way to Santa Clarita community also to talk about this with a bunch of other former incarcerated people, to talk to that community about this issue. And, it just, I'm thankful that you are all here. Welcome me to talk to you about this. But it just also saddens me to know that, we haven't really moved forward on this. And, there is solutions to this, there is potentials there is ways of coming together and coming with the right plan instead of just being stale and just thinking about the facility. There is things that we can do that can ultimately come to the root cause of ensuring that these young people are served properly in the right environment with the right tools, and eventually get to the root cause of their behavior and transform to become like myself, who now I'm giving back to my community with other young people that I get to guide. I have other 20, 19-year-old kids that I guide. So it's possible to do these things, and just wanted to know, we can do this in this community, and it's possible. And I really just want to urge people to be open to these types of reimagining systems. And at the end of the day, do we want to spend time just incarcerating a young person to just continue to be worse in a most punitive environment as possible? Or do we want to really help them become someone that can come to your community and become a mentor to the young people? They're probably going to struggle, because at the end of the day, kids are going to struggle. They might not join gangs, do drugs, none of that, but every young person struggles. Just unfortunately, some of us struggle in different environments with different households and different financial stability, harsher than others. That's the only reality that we face, and that's what we're here talking about. Let's really just come to solutions, and there is solutions there. And I think that Veronica mentioned some of them. There's things that can put in place if we all just come together and just really be bold about what we're talking about here today. Let's focus about the young person, more about the facility, because at the end of the day, it's human beings that we're talking about, human beings that were at one point innocent in their life, and something happened, and now they're in a bad predicament, just like I was at one point in my life. And now, thankfully, by the grace of God, I made it. I'm here today to give back, and I'm doing the same job, which is making sure other kids don't have to go through that, so no more harm is done in communities, and no more kids have to end up in prison for the rest of their lives, like the many other friends and people that I've seen that could have not been there if something would have been done at a very young age. So I'll pass it to Wendy. Thank you.
Thank you, Kent.
Thank you, Kent. This is not the first time I've had to speak after Kent speaks. And I will say that I'm an attorney, child welfare expert. I've been doing youth development for 20 years. And all of what I've learned, and the reason that I do this, is from listening to voices like Kent. So thank you for saying that. I, in my current role, serve as the executive director of the Probation Oversight Commission. So I'm appointed by the Board of Supervisors to be staff to a 9-member commission, who are also all appointed by the Board of Supervisors. And they are responsible for general oversight of the probation department. They act as a liaison between the probation department and the board. And they also have a state responsibility for inspecting the juvenile facilities at least once a year and reporting back to the Board of Supervisors, as well as to the BSCC, the Board of State and Community Corrections, on the health and safety of the facilities. In general, it means that I listen to what Chief Patino said in his remarks here, and we go and we check it out and we see whether it looks accurate or not. And the commissioners then report back to the board on that. And I will say that this morning, I would just like to echo a lot of the things that he said, which is that the Probation Oversight Commission, as well as the probation department, have the responsibility in ensuring the safety and well-being of the children, the young adults, the staff, and the community. And at Campus Kilpatrick, that has taken a role that we've been able to describe officially and unofficially in many of our commission meetings. Our staff and commissioners have been both at Campus Kilpatrick and at Barry J. Nydorf over 24 times in the past year, both to conduct those official inspections and surprise inspections and visits and tours. If you read our inspection report, you'll see that the commission made a number of concerning and objective criticisms about the facilities in the county, But the inspection of Campus Kilpatrick really stands out as the most effectively run, most appropriately constructed facility in the county. And that echoes a lot of the things that Chief Bettino said. It is not just about the buildings, but the buildings help. I myself have seen those roll bars that he describes, the improvements on the fencing when I was out there a couple of weeks ago. They are so different and psychologically different than the barbed wire at other facilities. We'll be back later this month to do a pre-inspection in advance of the Secure Track youth moving over, and then also do an official inspection later this fall, which will be reported publicly. That being said, I would just like to also echo what Chief Bettino said, that the concept around safety and what safety means in a facility is something that I take really seriously, as does the Probation Oversight Commission. So in 2 decades of work in youth development and in my personal experience, having raised 3 teenagers, I was a foster parent for a number of others. I've studied a lot about brain development, about classroom management, and most applicable here about what youth need after they've committed a harm. And what they need, and this is science, not something that advocates talk about, it's psychological science, is therapeutic relationships with adults. They need to catch up in school. They need access to high quality medical care. They need hope. They need options for jobs, for housing, for belonging in communities. And the Probation Oversight Commission is specifically charged with ensuring that the probation department continues to implement those programs at Campus Kilpatrick. So what I will say is that I have met a lot of people at Campus Kilpatrick, including your probation officers, which you would think they're the folks that we talk to directly, but also the kitchen staff, and also the people who are working at the front desk, and also the people who are the mental health providers and the LACO teachers. And everybody there represents really the best that the county has to offer. I am a person who believes that young people deserve therapeutic care first and jails last, and would like to see our population of incarcerated youth continue to decline, as it has drastically over the last decades. But certainly Campus Kilpatrick is the best option that the county has to offer. In fact, we are working to replicate much of the work at Campus Kilpatrick at other facilities around the county. So I would just like to welcome you all to participate in the Probation Oversight Commission meetings going forward. I personally invite you to contact me directly if you have concerns that come out of the process by which the department moves Secure Track youth over to Campus Kilpatrick, so that I can address them with Chief Bettino and Chief Gonzalez, and also so that we can continue to work together with our communities to ensure that we're providing what young people really need. And I would just say to end that I'll echo what Kent said, that I really wish you could meet some of these young folks who are currently at Barry J. Neidorf and will be moving over. They are exceptional people. And I feel proud to be working alongside the advocacy groups, the credible messengers, folks like ARC, where Kent is from, and with the probation department, who the leadership of the department is really focused on improving the work that's happening in our facilities and following this care first, jails last model that the board has so much supported. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. So I'm going to close this out. Wendy hit on this. So she said that she wishes that you could meet some of the young people, and I've actually been spending time with them and told them that I was coming here today. And I said, what do you want me to relay on your behalf? And actually the first thing they asked me was, is there any way we can go to? Like, can we Zoom in? Can we? And I said, not for this meeting, but we'll try to arrange something like that in the future for sure. But what they did ask me to relate to all of you is, a lot, it resonates with exactly with what Kent said. They said, please explain that, like, where we came from and what we did before we got here are very different from who we are today and what we want to be in the future. And I was asked to relay to you that they're seeking an opportunity, that they understand there's an understanding among the youth that they know what Campus Kilpatrick is. They've looked it up online. They've read about it. They understand that it's an opportunity that will be given to some, that's something that they have to earn, essentially, to the opportunity to go to Campus Kilpatrick. And so they asked me to relay to you that they understand all of that. They've read what, sort of is being said about them and people's concerns. But they said, please explain that's not who we are. So I just wanted to share that on their behalf. And so now we will turn it over, Terry, back to you or whoever's going to lead the question and answer.
Thank you, Veronica. Okay, I believe now we're going to go to public comments. And Terry, do you have a way of knowing the order that the hands were raised?
Well, I do know that, I guess the short answer is yes. I'll just, I know that Dinah Livingston Flanagan and I spoke yesterday, and she has comments. So I would call on her first.
Okay, Dinah, Terry, do we need to unmute?
Hi, this is Dina Flanagan. Thank you all for your time today and explaining your process with Camp Kilpatrick. I have a unique situation because my property borders Camp Kilpatrick, okay? I've had quite a few instances where the staff from Camp Kilpatrick think that they can come to my property, open my gates, view the prison down there, the camp down there, and then they've left my property at risk for my horses leaving the property. They come and put signs and post signs on my property not to trespass when they in fact are trespassing on my property. I have no problem with rehabilitating children. I think it's a very good idea, and I think it's something that our society needs in this time. I appreciate all of the work that you're putting into it, but I need some assurances that the staff at Camp Kilpatrick is going to respect my boundaries. I cannot have them coming. I don't know these people. They are not part of, our community, but yet they come up here and they think they own my property. That's not okay with me. I appreciate hearing all the wonderful things that you were trying to do for these kids, but how many children are going to be in this at one time? And, yes, the fencing does not look adequate from my standpoint. I understand that you're trying a new situation so that it doesn't feel like they're incarcerated and that you're trying to rehabilitate them. But yet it's a little disconcerting. I had no idea that you had violent offenders here already. When I bought the property, that was not the model of Camp Kilpatrick. And so when we did our research, you have changed things drastically since we have lived here. And so it's not supposed to be that, yes, I knew about it when I got here, as Tessa has informed me. It's the fact of the matter is that you're not reaching out to the public and telling us what's going on. We have to find out in a letter that you approve this without even contacting the people that live here. This is a small rural neighborhood. What are your protocols for somebody who does try to escape, that doesn't want to be reformed? I understand that you have a big process that goes through and you're vetting these people to come and enjoy this and rehabilitate here. I appreciate that. However, what are your protocols and why did you not reach out to the neighboring people around here? You just don't care about our safety? I'm a citizen here, and I've written programs for children that have drug abuse and to rehabilitate them. So I understand that process and I appreciate it. But the deal is here that you guys do not have adequate security and your staff is not apprised of the boundaries to private property. And I really need to have this addressed. And how are we going to address that? And are you going to put together something for the public to understand what's going to happen here? It'd take 30 minutes for any police to arrive here. You are then endangering the citizens, the private citizens here. It's not about the fact that this is what you want to do. There are going to be problems. There always are. And they need to be addressed, and you need to have a protocol so that we can feel comfortable here. And it's very, I don't know how to express I feel intruded on by your people coming up in their ATVs. They come inside my gates, unlock them. They have posted signs about trespassing and they're being filmed 3 acres up into my property. This is not okay. Okay, this is my private property. I paid for this property. This is a state-run facility, I'm guessing. I don't know if this is private or you are just running by the state, but at the end of the day, why is it that I can't enjoy my property and feel safe here? We really have to figure out what your protocols are. We need to be apprised of these situations. I appreciate that you're trying to do this for these children, and I believe they do have a second chance. But if I have a young daughter that's here, there's an equestrian center with all young girls here, having sex offenders and people that have murdered somebody.
Dinah, Could I ask you to wrap it up a little bit? I realize it's an important issue for you as it is for us, but we kind of allocate 3 minutes per speaker. Sorry.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Livingston Flanagan. And Terry, can you call the next speaker, please? And just notification to everybody, the time allowed per public speaker is 3 minutes. Thank you.
So I'll call on Colleen Mulally.
Hi, yes, thank you, Terry.
Sorry if I butchered your name.
Nope, Colleen Mulally, that's my
Okay.
name. Thank you. Thank you for everyone attending today, for listening to my comments. I want to thank Veronica for her information about the who, what, and where, and Adam for his comments on safety and security, Kent and the others as well for talking about the issues. I possess no expertise in recidivism, probation, detention, or incarceration. So I'm not going to comment on 707B offenses and whether mixing the current offenders with the new proposed population will provide a rehabilitative outcome. I am concerned about the safety, and it's something that you haven't addressed, the aspect of safety that I'm going to speak about. Some of you may be familiar with Robert Kerbeck's well-researched account of the 2018 Woolsey fire. At 262 pages, his book Malibu Burning chronicles Woolsey in searing detail. I encourage you to pick up a copy and review what happened at Kilpatrick on the initial night when the fire was both at Woolsey and Campfire, where that first began, and to the fateful next morning when Western Malibu went up into smoke, because that's where I'm focusing my attention this morning. I'm focusing on the questionable decision-making by those in charge of giving directives to residents at Kilpatrick for the safety and well-being of the incarcerated population and the staff. I'd like you to imagine how dire a situation would be whereupon long overdue notice to evacuate Kilpatrick was finally given, and it was considered at that point very dangerous to travel by that point, and then the buses to transport all of those who were on the premise at Kilpatrick would not start. So in thinking about the morning when the fire exploded massively from Western Malibu and thinking about the sudden need to shelter in place, I want you to think about the fact that this is an incredibly high fire risk area. Everything I've learned about Kilpatrick during Woolsey indicates that those in charge were not prepared to issue a timely evacuation and that no one ensured properly maintained vehicles. So that was 2018. And those offenders would be transported together on a bus. I think that we can all agree here that providing for safety is of utmost importance to the entire community. And I don't think that tying up fire personnel resources so that those residing and working at Kilpatrick can shelter in place is a good decision-making effort. But I'm going to ask you to think ahead to how you're going to ensure the safety for all there and planning for future fire and disasters. Because I want you to think for a minute about the recent decision-making in times that is not an emergency. So how was the emptying of Central Juvenile Hall handled recently? How was the transport for all of those individuals handled recently? That was not an emergency situation. And as far as I understand, the leadership was not prepared to smoothly facilitate that situation just several months ago. So I'm looking at those two examples of decision-making and not feeling particularly assured that we are really prioritizing the bottom line health, well-being, and safety of those during times of disruption, whether or not that's an emergency situation. I understand the protocols for transport of the incarcerated differ based on the levels of offenders, and the transportation plans can become even more complicated, and the stakes are even higher. So when evacuation is not possible, in a fire emergency situation, that situation turns to sheltering in place, which creates even more potential for potential loss of life and property. And for everyone's safety, that includes not only all of those who are being held at a place like Campus Kilpatrick, but also all of the staff who are there as well. I am concerned about this because I am concerned about the safety of all of those there. And I don't know about what you spoke about, Wendelin and Adam, when you're focusing on the safety and you're focusing on psychological safety, you're focusing on the well-being of all of those. And this is a fundamental issue. We know that this fire risk is not going to go away. We know that Campus Kilpatrick is situated where it is. And I think that recidivism and all of the work for rehabilitation that you're doing is very, very important work. But I ask you to consider this because you have young constituents who are there, and you have our rural
Colleen,
residents, as we just heard from Dinah. And I think that you have to consider all of your constituents and their needs
Colleen?
and planning for forward. So thank you for hearing me, Terry, and others.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, Wade.
Hi, thanks. I just want to thank everyone for being here today. I want to thank you for all your comments, especially Kent. Those of us who live in these communities, we appreciate the work. We are proud of Kilpatrick and everything that it does, and we are mindful that the state has backed you into a corner. But you're also admitting, as you said, this is new. You haven't done this before. And anything that's new always comes with mistakes and a learning curve. And that's our concern. This is not NIMBYism. These are legitimate concerns. I want to add my voice to the concerns about the Woolsey fire evacuation at Kilpatrick, which was a fiasco. And I don't know that probation has fixed their evacuation plans. We haven't heard that. And you're adding a new population here, which would mean you have to adjust previous evacuation plans that already were insufficient. The redesign and the rebuild of Kilpatrick in 2017 was multi-million dollars and massive, and it was not designed for a new population. And yet now I'm here, you're gonna add a few things here and there, but it sounds cosmetic. It sounds like you're rushing this process in order to accommodate the edicts from the state. That's not acceptable. You talked about all the stakeholders and the experts that weighed in on this, but the public and the neighbors were not part of that. We're only finding out about this now. So that doesn't really build trust. That feels like you were trying to slip this past us without our input, when you should have sought our input first, because we know these mountains and these hills better than anyone else. This was insufficiently noticed. There was insufficient time spent on thinking it through, on planning this. And it feels like the security has not really been thought through. So, despite all of the other things that are kind of weighing on this process, the timetable and the state and so forth, I would urge that this all be tabled pending a proper trust building process that incorporates all local stakeholders, public hearings, and addresses existing concerns up front rather than waiting until the end when we find out about it and then trying to put our minds at ease after you've known what you were going to do for a very long time. The process was rushed through. It was not transparent. And we need something to give us some sense that you have really, really put the effort into this that it requires. And I don't feel like, given the previous comments and everything that we're now seeing, I don't feel like enough thought has been put into this. So please table this, go back to the drawing board and get the trust of residents and local stakeholders first, and then move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Wade. I don't, let's see.
Harry, I see Kelly Honig raising her hand.
Yeah, I'm
Kelly.
a governing board member, but I won't speak until all the public comments are taken.
Okay.
So I'm waiting for Terry to.
Yeah,
Thank you, Kelly.
If somebody else wants to speak, just jump in, because at this point I don't see any hands raised, but I see some people on the line that I don't recognize. So I just want to be fair to everyone.
Okay, I will just say, if anyone else from the public would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand. And if not, then I believe we will go to governing board member comments.
Yeah, I don't see any other raised hands.
Okay, then I'm gonna comment. I'm Kelly Honig, council member, City of Westlake Village, for those of you who don't know me, and also the governing board member from my city for the COG. We are, the COG and the City of Westlake Village are constituents of the LA County Board of Supervisors. And I really want to thank all of you guys from Camp Kilpatrick. I mean, I know you're not from Camp Kilpatrick, but for all of this information. Very informative and enlightening, but completely after the fact. You're all here after the Board of Supervisors has passed their motion last week, about a week after we got the information about Camp Kilpatrick. So this is a communication issue and a constituent issue. I represent my residents in Westlake Village, as does Mr. Pearl and Mr. DeGoes. And this is our neighborhood, along with the other cities in the COG. And we were never, as Wade has said, we were never included in this process, ever, not 1 minute. We found out about it way after the fact. It's for lack of a better word, it's infuriating. If we had known before, or had even been invited to participate in just the learning process about Camp Kilpatrick. We are not experts. You are the experts. We were never even given the information. And here you all are taking up your very valuable time in very valuable work that you do to give us this information after the fact. And it infuriates me. We are constituents of the Board of Supervisors, and we were not invited to participate in a very important decision that is taking place right in our very neighborhood. In addition, what I will not accept, as Mr. Major has said, this is not NIMBYism. This is communication. We were not given an opportunity to be part of the process. I've never been to Camp Kilpatrick. I'm a lawyer and a public representative. I have no expertise in the area of youth offenders. I do understand that you are under state mandate. It is a community issue. We were not invited to be part of the community. And now here we are after the fact, just like we were last month, as the Board of Supervisors meeting is taking place right now, talking about this. So I echo many of the comments that the public speakers and my fellow COG members have mentioned last month and this month, but this is just not an acceptable position for me. I am a constituent, my residents are constituents of the Board of Supervisors, and we were not represented in this issue, in this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Does anybody else from the governing board or any of the city managers care to comment?
If I may, I don't know if Chris Anstead is going to do it. I'm an alternate this session, but I have to agree with Kelly Honig and certainly the individuals that spoke. We got blindsided and we had to take a position. And I think we all have a right to just a degree with the Board of Supervisors. We don't just follow along and nod our heads and go along to get along. So I think that was an appropriate motion on our part. And I very much appreciate all the information that we're given today. But I guess, as Kelly mentioned, it's it's a bit late in the game to now be updated and have all those information. So I appreciate everybody's response and the information we got in the. But it's still, as Kelly said, it's discouraging and after the fact. And then I think that we were chastised for taking this position, but I think it was the appropriate one. But thank you very much for allowing us to answer questions.
Okay, Karen, I'll
yes.
I'll piggyback on that comment. I think I agree with what Dennis said. I think it is, and what Kelly said, it's probably more a communications issue and a reassurance issue about what's kind of being done to make sure that the issues that the residents brought up are being addressed. And but I say that but I think that still I think that I understand that this is something that we want to try to rehabilitate our youth and try to be able to give second chances, basically. And so I think it's meritorious what you're trying to accomplish, but I think that the process that went through to do it wasn't a good one. So those are my comments.
Thank you, Chris. I
And
see
Karen, I'd
Alicia
like-
Weintraub.
Thanks, Karen. And I echo Kelly's sentiments exactly. To me, this is not a policy issue. It's 100% a communications issue. And this is such worthwhile information that should have been presented months ago so that we could have all been a part of the process, had been able to take a tour of the facility, had this information to educate our constituents and to educate ourselves. But I guess my question to you is, what outreach was done to the neighbors and to the cities? Because as been stated before, the governing board members of the COG in our cities did not receive information until it was too late. And that's just not good practice, not the way good policy should be made, and not the way we pride ourselves on doing things in our communities.
Thank you,
Karen,
Alicia.
do you want me to answer, or do you want me to wait until everybody has spoken?
Thank you, Veronica. Let's wait till we complete the comments from the governing board members or city managers. Do we have anyone else? Eniko?
Yeah, thank you. This is
know how to raise my hand. This is Violet. So can I speak for a moment? Can everybody hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh,
but-
sorry, Violet, could you
Wonderful.
identify yourself, please? I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with you.
Okay, I didn't know if I had to pre-register or anything to speak. I'm just a local resident. I've been here
Oh.
for 45 years.
Okay. So you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to keep this very short. Number one, I sent out the Zoom link to hundreds of local parents in the neighborhood and community, and nobody knows about this. Very few. And the second thing is, everybody's talking about giving everyone a second chance. How about the people who are killed by these children? They don't have a second chance. So I understand trying to rehabilitate these children. I have 3 children of my own, and I love the fact that we want to provide a place for them. But why does it have to be nestled amongst our homes where we have innocent children and our families living? There are plenty of other places where we could build a wonderful facility with all of the different things that you guys are speaking about to rehabilitate these children and give them a second chance. But I just don't think it needs to be in such close proximity to our homes. There are, and as everybody is saying, nobody was given the information until it was too late. So I don't think that's right in our community. And I was just listening because I got this information at almost midnight last night, and I haven't done enough research because I haven't even heard about it. And everybody else that I sent it to this morning are in the middle of drop off and taking their kids places and working, and nobody was able to get here. But I think that this should be postponed and give the community, the members of the community, a chance to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Violet. Eniko Gold.
Thank you. This is Aniko Gold, City of Hidden Hills, and I also like to echo fellow board member Honig's sentiments. We were not involved in this decision-making process, and my concern is that how do we move forward, because I guess we're after the fact and the camp is happening, and how do we communicate? How do we work together from this point forward? How do we represent our constituents effectively? And how do we coexist if this camp is happening? So do you have a plan for that, Mr. Bettino or Mrs. Julian? Do we have a plan for that? How do we move forward if this project is really moving forward? And then also I have concerns about the fire risk. Have you assessed that? We don't want this to turn into a death trap if there is a wildfire. Do you have a plan for, as a commenter said, a proper evacuation plan? Can you address these concerns? Any of you who spoke?
Thank you, Eniko. I would like to speak on this item, and then maybe if there are no other speakers from the governing board or city managers, then we will ask our county representatives to come back and speak. I think after I'm done. My name is Karen Fair. I'm currently the president of the Las Virgenes-Malibu Council of Government, and I'm a council member with the city of Malibu. 3 days after I was elected in November of 2018, we had the Woolsey fire. Wildfires in the Santa Monica Mountains are predictable. There is a long history that's readily available for anyone to read about. The city of Malibu is at the receiving end of the Santa Ana winds. So we lost 480 homes in that fire. We had a world famous evacuation on Pacific Coast Highway, and I'm sure you saw it on TV. We lost lives. And as one of our public speakers said, if you read Robert Kerbeck's book, which I encourage you to at least read that chapter, the evacuation at Camp Kilpatrick could have resulted in death. And it seems like a miracle, but for the actions of LA County Fire, it would have been, I'm sure. So I will start by saying I thank you all for being here. I thank you for your time. I thank you for the work you do. And I have a huge amount of respect for the work you do. Regarding communications, it seems to me that this was not an oversight, that the local residents here were not notified. It seems to have been a deliberate decision to keep us out of the loop. I was told about this by someone who asked to remain anonymous about a week before the Board of Supervisors meeting to vote on this. Completely unacceptable. And it just flaunts any concept of public trust. I have to mention the articles in the LA Times are a damning assessment of the entire system. It does not inspire confidence. I'm sure everybody here is aware of the activism that's happening lately in Santa Clarita regarding the facility there. I think the sentiment is shared. People are concerned about security, concerned about facilities that were not designed nor built nor retrofitted for this purpose. The retrofit that I read about that was approximately $50 million, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone please, were primarily seismic and recreation retrofits. In 2012, I did not read about security retrofits. And I want to emphasize, for me, this is not a debate about the merits of rehabilitative treatment versus punitive. I can't imagine anyone not being in favor of rehabilitative treatment. And Kent, you're a living example of that. And I have the hugest amount of respect for you and the work that you do. And I wish you every success in your work. But I think safety, fire evacuation, we neighbors and elected officials, I think, are concerned with every right to be. So I would welcome any comments. I realize our meeting has already gone over our typically allotted time. We usually conclude at 10 a.m. and we have other agenda items yet to be heard, but I would welcome any response that any of you have. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna take a few moments to respond, and then I think that we can't possibly address all of your concerns as thoroughly as we would like to today in like the time for your meeting. So what I'm going to offer is ongoing communication about some of the specific concerns that were raised, and really all the specific concerns that were raised. And I will, offer myself up to be someone who you can reach out to through, I think it's Terry or Karen, whoever is sort of like your primary coordinator with our office. But I do want to address a couple of specific things that came up. I I don't have any choice other than to own the sentiment that it was after the fact communication. I do want to share with you all that for a significant period of time as these discussions were going on, we in the 3rd District and really everybody was discussing Campus Kilpatrick as a temporary location. And there's a couple reasons why it was first brought up as a temporary, not a permanent site for this population. One is that we thought that this population was going to be quite small. We're now learning that it will be more young people than we initially estimated. The second reason we were talking about it as a temporary site, I'll be completely honest, from our perspective, is that we had done so much work to get Campus Kilpatrick up to what it is today, right? Like we've all talked about it, the model for LA, the programming, the mental health piece, all of that. The supervisor had done a lot of work to bring that into existence. And really, you know, for any young person in the county, we did not want Campus Kilpatrick to be the only such facility. And so initially we took the position that yes, it could be used temporarily for a very small number of young people, but that we really wanted to see other county facilities and other county communities step up and say, we will replicate that model here and we will have, you know, that to offer for young people in our community as well. So the discussion in the beginning was temporary, it's going to be temporary. And yes, there should have been, even though it was going to be temporary, I don't have any chance, but any other option, but to say, yes, absolutely. We should have been in touch with you all and we should have been communicating that. And then kind of as things went on, it became very clear that we're going to have, it's estimated anywhere between 100 and 150 young people in this population. And what became very clear is we cannot possibly, for all the reasons you've all said here today, safety, fire, almost every single, well, actually, I would go out on a limb and say every single county facility we have is in an area that is subject to fire, earthquake. We had to evacuate Barry J at one point too, right? So we couldn't responsibly say, let's take all 150 potential, you know, young people that are going to be in this population and put them in one location, because that in itself would be irresponsible for safety and environmental reasons and potential fire, right? So what we started to acknowledge and realize is that this is going to have to be a shared responsibility across the county, multiple locations. We can't possibly just find one location to accommodate this entire population. And so that's when the board started looking at, okay, we'll do a location in Santa Clarita. I know they're not happy about it. We've all read about the lawsuits already. We'll do a location in Commerce. We'll do Campus Kilpatrick. We're going to bring the LA model out to the Camps Page and Alpharbaugh in Laverne. And what we're trying to do is to really build up the model that Campus Kilpatrick has given us in multiple communities. Because you're right, it's not fair for one community to shoulder or to be the one that is sort of held up as the example. And then because of that, the responsibility falls on one community. This is a responsibility that the supervisor felt everybody had to have. And so yes, at some point it went from, we'll look at this as a temporary option to it's got to be one of several permanent options. But again, I have to own the fact that, you know, we were kind of trying to respond to the state's incredibly short timeline. We have young people who are sitting in Barry J today that don't belong there. They just don't. I've met them every week that I go back there, and I have to tell them that we're still thinking it through. We're still talking to, trying to get community input. We're still meeting with the lawyers. We're still, it's, you know, I'm at the point where I almost don't want to go back there next Saturday and tell them this again, but I will, but I don't want to, because there are young people sitting at Barry J today that just simply don't belong there. And then the last thing I want to say, is that this is also the reason why no one is suggesting that tomorrow we take all 30 young people who are at Barry J and just plop them into Campus Kilpatrick. We've got to be very responsible to all of you, responsible to the kids, responsible to everybody involved here about how we do this, right? And so we're talking about 5, no more than 10, but really 5 to 8 is the number that we talked about this weekend when I was there at Barry J. 5 to 8 young people to start, right? You start with a very small, and they will be the only 5 to 8 people at Campus Kilpatrick, so that we can make sure that we're putting in place all of those supportive services that we talked about that, again, are critical to everybody's safety, including the community safety. So it's not going to be like from one day to the next, we have, this brand new huge population at Campus Kilpatrick. It is going to be a very tiny population to begin with. We will make sure everything is in place. We will, learn. We will, sort of make sure that we learn with that small cohort before we go and expand to further cohorts. And then in the end, the goal is to keep the population at each of the sites that ends up being the permanent sites, is to keep that population on the small end, on the, rather than having one massive facility where, it just isn't the responsible way to do things. And then the final thing I want to say is I do want to just very quickly highlight that the board motion that passed on March 15th about Campus Kilpatrick specifically says support further exploration of the potential future identification of Campus Kilpatrick and Camp Scott. And the reason why that language is tentative is because we know that we have to make sure, right? Like I said, we start with a very tiny, almost like what you would call a pilot, that we have the programming in place, we have all the supports in place, we've addressed the security concerns, that the evacuation plans, believe me, if anybody is on the same page as you about the Woolsey fire and the horror that ended up being for the 3rd district, it's the supervisor, right? Like, we've had reports about the Woolsey fire recovery. What are we going to do different next time? Ever since it happened. And I think we just accepted the very last report about a week ago on the Woolsey fire. So this is a topic that is, front of mind for the supervisor. It has been ever since it happened. And so we are, and we have, been speaking with the probation department about what is the evacuation plan, what is going to be different. Of course, we need to share that information with you. So I'm going to end there just to say that every issue you've raised is well taken. There's nothing that I'm going to sit here and say, you're not right to raise that issue, or that's not a legitimate concern. I'm going to own the fact that the communication was not what it should have been. And I'm just going to commit to having that communication with you going forward. We will share the fire plans. We will, get you the information that you need to bring back to your communities. And, we'll take it from there. And so I hope that that's at least for today. And again, I can't get through it all today. I can't address every single thing, but I hope that for today, at least I can convey that we're going to be on the same page with you. And we're going to do this in a way that is smart and responsible and really safe for everybody involved.
Okay, thank you, Veronica. I will ask if we could get contact information for you and the others who presented today, and maybe that could go through Tessa Charnovsky. I would appreciate that very much. Okay, thank you. All right.
Karen, you're on mute, and we're back to
I apologize.
That's okay. With regard to item 6B, Megan Courier said that she just sent me a chat that she had to leave for another meeting, and she said she'd be happy to follow up if anybody had any questions for the fire department.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I think I was on mute. Veronica, I just wanted to thank you for your comments, and I would ask for your contact information, any of you who presented from the county today, and Tessa, perhaps that could be coordinated through you. Okay, thank you. All right, we are at 10:15 for a meeting that normally ends at 10. Terry, how would you like to proceed?
Well, I believe that Jeff, are you still on from the, yeah, Jeff's on. Jeff, do you want to make some brief comments?
Yeah, I just shared, I think I tried to share, and I'll be very, very brief. I know you're way over, but I did put a link in the chat. It has a report on the priority bill list from Cal Cities. I do want to make mention, I spoke with our lobbyist regarding the Brown Act bills. He is not optimistic about the way that those are going. They haven't really, most of them have not been set for hearing. We're running into deadlines. Those of you who have Assemblymember Bloom, Agoura Hills, Malibu, and a tiny sliver of Calabasas. I would highly recommend, if you are interested in seeing those bills move forward, please reach out to him. He sits on the Assembly Local Government Committee that is set to meet tomorrow, possibly for their last meeting before the fiscal deadline, which a couple of these bills do have a fiscal component. Other than that, I want to make mention of our City Leaders Summit, which is coming up on May 11th, 12th, and 13th in Sacramento. It's our legislative lobby day, combined with our executive forum for education tour of city officials. But other than that, I'll let you get back to the rest of your meeting, but please reach out if you have any questions on the bill list or anything else.
Thank you, Jeff. Do we have any other updates from legislative staff or agency partners? All right. We do still have items 7.
Tessa, I think Tessa wants to say something.
Excuse me, Tessa.
Every time I press unmute, I lose my notes. So I just wanted to tell you about the Test to Treat program through Department of Public Health, where if you go to specific sites in the county and you test positive for COVID-19, you can get treatment right there. And that's really important. Therapeutics are much more available now than they were in the past. And it's been shown to be very effective, particularly if you get them right away to reduce severe illness. So what I will do, if I can find my notes, is put that into the chat so you can find out where to go. And I have more, but I'm going to leave it there since we're so much over time.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tessa. Terry, item 7B.
Okay. I guess I would ask, first of all, if the governing board wants to continue with B and C and D. I know that C is important because it affects the future COG meetings, but I just wasn't sure about everyone else's timing, so I didn't want to go too long.
I'm fine to continue.
Okay, I'll make it very brief. And
thank you.
The item B is the recommendations from the Los Angeles County Blue Ribbon Committee on Homelessness that's been meeting for the past about 7 or 8 months. It's been a very long, drawn out process, but they do have recommendations that came out. And I will say that the COG executive directors in LA County have, especially those that have staff that deal with homeless issues, spent a lot of time, and we put together a letter that is included in the COG agenda. If you would trust me on this one, I think that the recommendations are very important, and the letter is rather lengthy, as Karen and I discussed at length last week. But the issues are important with regard to how the county Measure H funds get allocated and the process of allocating it and the body that allocates it. None of us are in favor of taking a meat cleaver to LAHSA, but we all feel, and when I say we, I'm talking about the other COG executive directors, that there is merit in discussing a better representation from the cities and the COGs on this committee that makes the decisions on how the funds get allocated. And so if you would support the sending the letter, myself and all the other COG executive directors would appreciate it.
Thank you, Terry. I will say from reading that item over the weekend, a lot of thought and effort went into it from everything that I can see. I want to thank Terry for his work on that. And I certainly am in favor of sending the letter. If we need a motion, I will make that right now.
I support.
Okay, is that a second? Terry, do you want to? take the roll on that.
Nico Gold,
Aye.
Chris Anstead,
Aye.
Kelly Honig,
Aye.
Alicia Weintraub,
Aye.
President Farrer.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously, excuse me. And then Karen, is it item C is returning to in-person hybrid meetings, and I have a brief report on that. As you may recall, Kelly and Karen and I had a conversation back in December with a representative from Las Virgenes Municipal Water District who indicated that the governing board could meet at their facility as a location that would be convenient for all of the COG members, and that they did have, we subsequently learned that they did have the ability to hold hybrid meetings there. Unfortunately, I just learned last week in some conversations with Las Virgenes that their board meets on the same day as the COG Governing Board at the same time. And so we will not be able to, Kelly, that I see you're laughing, and
Oh,
I don't
no.
know. I don't know why the person that we spoke with didn't say that there was a conflict.
I don't know why. I went over all of this with them,
Yeah,
a year ago. Oh,
I know,
dear.
and
I'm so
I will
sorry.
say,
Sorry.
I will say that Dave Peterson reached out to me over the weekend to again apologize for the miscommunication. So we're kind of back to square one as far as returning to in-person hybrid meetings. And I know that Nico also wanted to comment on this after the other governing board members. So I'm not sure, Karen, how you want to proceed at this point.
I have one question, and then Nico will take your comment, please. But I thought there was the possibility of us meeting at Terry, what am I trying to think of?
Gillette Ranch.
At King Gillette Ranch,
Yeah,
yes.
I spoke with a representative from LA County Department of Public Works who indicated that they had a room or something at either the Gillette Ranch or someplace in that area. And I just checked with them before the COG meeting this morning, and they're going to be visiting the site tomorrow. So I will at least have some kind of feedback on that after tomorrow's meeting.
Okay, thank you. Nico?
Thank you. Well, I just like to say a couple of things. I have knowledge of some examples in the last few weeks where after public meetings similar to ours today, when a lot of people attended from many different agencies, participant tested positive, and after the meeting, sometime after the meeting. So I think we still have this risk, and I think the community kind of reflected on it as a dodging the bullet, quote unquote. And I'm also expecting some concerning news this Friday from the health department call. So I think we need to think about everyone who participates in these events, not just us, the board, but the sheriff's department, the fire department, and all our constituents who attend. And I'm also concerned about the environmental impact, having us all drive to meetings. So these are my concerns that I wanted to express. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I suppose we can, at another meeting, revisit this and perhaps move to continue meeting remotely as at least one option to consider.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Terry, another big item, 7D.
Yes, the proposal that's, or the report that's included in the agenda is regarding the proposed county ordinance allowing low impact camping in environmentally sensitive habitat areas in the Santa Monica Mountains. And this item additionally came up kind of with short notice. And so I prepared a draft letter for your consideration, basically expressing opposition, concern about the proposed camping with the issues that the COG and the cities have had with regard to encampments in the Santa Monica Mountains and the fire danger as a result of those encampments. I think that this is something that is a special concern, and present this for your consideration.
Thank you, Terry. I would move to send this letter. The city of Malibu has also sent a letter. I think most of you know the Board of Supervisors meeting is going on right now as we speak. And as I was told at last count, the city of Malibu has 215 speakers signed up opposed to this item. So do we have any comments on it? Public comments or comments from the governing board?
Karen, can you repeat that what you last said, like about the city? Yeah, I'm
Yes.
sorry.
As you can imagine, this is a big issue for Malibu residents. And there is a large number of people, I was told as recently as this morning, that, again, on very short notice, that there were 215 Malibu residents signed up to speak as in opposition to this camping in the Santa Monica Mountains issue on the Board of Supervisors meeting agenda today.
And just for the record, I would point this out that after the Camp Kilpatrick discussion at the previous COG meeting, I did receive some feedback from Calabasas and Agoura Hills that it wasn't something that generally the COG policy is, that if there's something legislative or a major issue, that it does go out to the governing or to the cities for action and then come back to the COG. The difficulty again is that, the COG and the cities are getting this information at the last minute, and it's creating a difficult situation. So I also see that Alicia has her hand up.
No, I just want to.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify. You said you heard from Calabasas. I just wanted to confirm you didn't. It wasn't from the governing member. Like you didn't hear.
I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. I should have been more specific.
No, I just wanted to clarify that to my fellow board members.
And the same with the Agoura Hills feedback was not from the governing board member or the alternate. It was from other members of the council. And I know that we're trying to wrap this up. I know that everybody's on a short time frame, so it's
Thank you,
whatever
Terry.
the governing board wants to do.
Yeah, I will just echo that. The information is getting to all of us very last minute or after the fact, which makes protocol practically impossible to follow. And again, the Board of Supervisors meeting started an hour ago. I'm going to log on to it as soon as we conclude here. But I'll just state for the record, the city of Malibu's position is that we are in favor of public access to recreation in the Santa Monica Mountains, just as we are to the beaches. But we are not in favor, and there are camping opportunities. There is Leo Carrillo, there's Malibu Creek State Park. We're not in favor of unsupervised trail camping in a very high fire hazard severity zone. We're also extremely concerned about the environmental impact with the blue line streams and everything that being in the Santa Monica Mountains entails. So I'm in favor of the COG moving ahead with opposition to camping in the Santa Monica Mountains. And I don't know if anybody else is with me on that.
I have a question about this item. How with the situation with homeless camping and tenting, like how does all of this play into that?
I'm not sure if this is exactly an answer to that question, but calendar year to date, Malibu has had over 30 fires.
Right.
It started by people experiencing homelessness in the Santa Monica Mountains.
Would this be a tool to help enforce that no camping? To stop the spread of the spread of these fires? Like I'm totally in support of that. I mean, I've heard from the situation in Malibu with the fires and the camping. I was just wondering how this plays into that.
Well, one of my concerns is that the ranger walkthroughs, the supervision, has been removed from the supervisor's plan. And that's extremely concerning to me.
Chris, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Terry, do we, I mean, question I have is, can we table this till the next meeting? Because this is a pretty complicated issue. And myself personally, I don't feel comfortable voting on this issue without kind of bringing it back and having a discussion with my city council on this at our next meeting. I just think that this is not exactly a clear-cut issue. It's pretty complicated. I think there's some nuances with it a little bit. So I would vote to table this issue. I don't want to vote. And I think we're rushing it.
Chris, I can appreciate that. And I'm happy to entertain anything that the governing board wants to do, obviously. I'm sure, I believe, I hope you all read the draft letter to the Board of Supervisors from the COG that was part of our agenda packet. It's the very last page. The problem we have, and we can certainly table this, but this is on the Board of Supervisors meeting agenda right now as we are speaking. So Chris Anstead has made a motion. Do we have comment or a second?
I just have a comment. Again, super frustrated about this, as I'm sure you are, Karen. I read everything, but I don't have an objection to the letter. I just would like a minute to be able to talk to Rob about it, see if it's within our legislative platform. I mean, which I don't want to do right now, being that it's 10:35. I mean, it's just.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I'm sounding irritated, not at you, Karen, at all. I totally appreciate it. And for your city, this is of huge concern. So
yeah, the wind blows to Malibu.
Yes, it does. I know.
Okay, I mean, I did make a motion in support of the draft letter. Chris made a motion to table it. So I guess we'll vote on my motion first and then Chris's.
Kelly,
all right. Or if we don't have a second, we will
Yeah.
move ahead to Chris's. Okay, not hearing a second. Chris Anstead has made a motion to table this item, I believe, to the next COG meeting in May, correct?
Yes.
Or
Yeah.
to a date uncertain?
No, to the next meeting.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second Chris's motion.
Okay, Terry, would you like to take the roll?
Yes, Aniko Gold,
Aye.
Chris Anstead,
Aye.
Kelly Honig,
Aye.
Alicia Weintraub,
Aye, but I wish we weren't in this position with the supervisors again, because I support what an important issue this is.
Yes, I totally agree with that. I'm, again, very frustrated.
Yeah.
President Fair.
Aye.
I'm sorry, Karen, and thank you for going to the meeting and advocating, I mean, the supervisors meeting and advocating your position. I wish there was another way around this, but I am in support of that position. So.
Well, you're welcome to log into the
I know,
supervisors meeting too.
I need to talk to my council, so.
Okay,
Thank you.
I believe that, yes, excuse me.
This is Tessa. I simply wanted to say that, this is an issue that I have been aware of for the past 3.5 years, and I'm sure I know it's been going on for probably a decade. This is what the Coastal Commission is demanding, as we know. And the Board of Supervisors has worked, or Supervisor Kuehl and our team has worked closely with advocates and elected officials from Malibu and beyond. My understanding is that this is what they say is the very best solution that the Coastal Commission will accept. My question to you all is, maybe if you're going to postpone this discussion, perhaps we could bring in some people to talk about this, just like we did with probation for today. If you're interested, we may be able to bring in some experts to provide some more context.
I would not be opposed to that. Again, like today's discussion with Camp Kilpatrick, it's after the fact, but do any other governing board members have any thoughts on that? Or Terry?
Sure, that's fine.
If we're going to do that, which I think is great, one thing that I would suggest, Tessa, with regard to Camp Kilpatrick too, is that maybe the county or the probation department could do a virtual tour or something that would be without all of the COG members going up to the camp. If there was something that showed the inside, outside, just, I'm not asking for a big presentation, but something that would just, if the county's going to address or attempt to address some of the comments that were made or concerns, that, something like that would also be informative.
Yeah, that'd be good, or even an in-person. But a virtual is easier. I will inquire.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Tessa. All right, everyone. Thanks for hanging in there for a very long meeting. The next governing board member is May 17th. And we will adjourn. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.